Okay, so we have actually been working on completing the square. You guys are masters of completing the square. And completing the square is a really, really important skill to learn. And the reason why is because they work for everything, right? I've taught you how to factor, and I give you problems that are factorable, but then eventually you're going to get problems that are not factorable. And completing the square allows you to factor them, to actually find an answer, right? And so, because it doesn't matter what C is. Usually it matters. If you're trying to factor, it matters what C is, because it's got to be factors of C that add to B, right? But when you complete the square, it doesn't matter. You just move the C out of the way, and you create your own C that makes a perfect square, right? And then you can do stuff, really cool stuff. You will see this on every test you take, like PSATs, they will definitely ask you to complete the square. SATs, they will ask you to complete the square. Every test you take from now on, ACTs, they will all ask this question. So to know it well is excellent. So today we're going to look at using completing the square in a real life example, right? Where you're actually using it with word problems, okay? So first of all, we're going to read this together. It says, a landscaper is designing a rectangular patio. By the way, with word problems, I find that you read it once through just to get a feeling. Are we talking about chimpanzees flying through the air? Are we talking about, grasshoppers, crawling on a patio? Or what are we talking about? You need to know context first. So read it first, then suddenly you've got a semi-picture, and then read it again, right? And if you can, draw a picture. Right? Always draw a picture if you can. If we're talking about something like a rectangular patio, ta-da! I'm going to draw a picture of a rectangular patio. So a landscaper is designing a rectangular patio. She has enough bricks to cover 225 square feet. I'm going to start underlining things that seem important to me, if I can find something to underline. Right? Rectangular patio. This is too close. All right, so I see it's a rectangular patio. To me, that seems kind of important. She has enough bricks to cover 225 square feet. That seems kind of important. She wants the length of the patio to be 16 feet larger than the width. That seems really important, right? 16 feet larger than the width. What dimension should the patio be? All right. So what did they give me? What?
So the number of bricks to cover the length.
Yes, which is to cover 225 square feet. What is that?
That's,
Yes.
so they give you the square footage. They give you the how wide and long it is.
Yeah, what is that when you get feet squared? You guys know? Like here's a rectangle, right? There's a rectangle. How would I get feet squared? Let's say this was this is not the same. Let me just say this was 2 and this was 6.
Only if the sides are all the same.
And this was, let's say this was feet. And let's say this was feet. How would we get feet squared? What would we have to do? What formula would we be using? Would we be talking, there's two possibilities. There's either perimeter, right? Adding up all the sides together, or there's area, all the stuff inside. Which one would give you square feet?
The area.
The area, why?
Because it's everything times the other things.
Yeah, so remember the formula for area is length times width, right? Either base times height or length times width, whichever one you want to think of. So length times width. So 2 feet, let's just try it. 2 feet times 6 feet is equal to 12 what? Feet squared. So that is area, right? All right. So if they're saying they have enough bricks to cover 225 square feet, wouldn't you agree with me that's area? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's awesome. That's good news. So that's immediately I'm going to write down what they gave me. Okay, they gave me A is equal to 225 square feet. Square feet, right? So that's area. Now I also know, I know my formula for area is what? What is the formula for area of a rectangle? Yeah. Base times height or length times width. Either one is fine, right? I'm going to just say length times width in this case, but base times height. Just because it's it's on the ground, so it doesn't have a base and a height. It has a length and a width. You know what I'm saying? Because it's flat. All right, so that's important. And then it says, we know it's rectangular patio. All right, now let's get rid of this advertisement here and let's do the real thing here. We drew our rectangular patio right there. She wants the length of the patio to be 16 feet larger than the width. So which one is smaller?
Width.
The width. So let's make width either W or X. Or make it W. We'll make it W. So we'll say width equals W. You always make the smaller one just X or W, right? Or a variable, just plain. What would the length be?
L.
What?
L.
Yeah, well, okay, except in terms of X. The length of the patio
The W times.
will be 16 feet larger than the width. How would I write that?
16.
W plus 16.
Does that make sense? Larger. It doesn't say 16 times as large. It says, if it said 16 times as large, then it would be 16x, right? 16 times x. But it says 16 larger than, right? So you're going to add. Does it make sense? See that? So yeah, you're right. Okay, so W plus 16. You agree with me? So over here on my whatever you call this, rectangle, right? I'm going to say this is my width, and my length is W plus 16. You guys with me? Totally makes sense, right? Are you writing this down, Elizabeth? For sure? You get that? Do you see how we got that? From this? From what it says there? The width is W, the length is W plus 16. 16 bigger than W, than the width, right? Fist to 5, everybody's with me? I just want to be sure. Because that's... What?
I'd like to have a second, but I only need to do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now they just gave us, look, we have a width, we have a length, and we have an area. So could we just plug it into our formula? Area is length times width. All right. The only thing is I'm going to put area, I'm going to put the A on the right. So I'm going to say length times width is equal to area, okay? So I know my length is what?
W plus 16.
W plus 16. So I'm going to put W plus 16, parentheses, parentheses. And then my width is what? And I'm multiplying it, so I'll just put the W right next to it, right? And then it says equals, what's my area?
W squared.
225.
But what's my area? Right? Here it says my area is, it says I have enough bricks to cover that much area. So that's what I've got to put. I've got to have 225 right here. Okay, so far it does not look like completing the square, right? Wouldn't you agree with me?
Yeah.
The next step is going to make it look like completing the square. Watch this. What am I going to do here?
You're going to have to say 2W.
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of
Plus
the
16.
parentheses. I've got to do my distributive property. In this case, normally I'd have the W here, right? But it doesn't matter where it is. I still got to do this, right? So what's W times W? W squared. W squared.
Oh my god.
Plus, what's 16 times W?
16.
16W. And then equals 225.
Oh my god, it's completely the square.
Now, does it look like completing the square?
Yes.
We just need to rewrite it so there's a space, right? The C is already over there.
So you don't.
So now we just complete the square?
Now we just complete the square.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're just going to go W squared plus 16W plus space is equal to 225 plus space. So half of 16,
8.
8. So, and it's positive, so I'm going to put it in a circle. 8 times 8 is?
64.
64, 64. All right, factoring it. Domenica, help me factor it.
So W plus 8
Yes.
parentheses squared
Yep.
equals
289.
yeah.
Okay.
And then you put a square root sign
Okay.
and you put W plus 8 equals plus or minus 200.
Does anybody know what the square root of 289 is?
Well,
Nobody
my
knows.
calculator.
The way I sometimes think about it
Gary.
is I think of what number times itself equals 9.
Oh.
So 3 times 3 is 9, so it could be 13 times 13.
It's
But there's also 7 times 7 is 49, right? So I'm guessing 17 times 17. What is it?
It's 17.
It's 17.
Plus or minus.
So that is a perfect square. So it's plus or minus 17. All right? Now, that means that either W plus 8 is equal to 17, or W plus 8 is equal to negative 17. So I'm going to subtract 8, subtract 8, subtract 8, subtract 8, draw my lines. I get W is equal to 9, I believe. 9 and 8 is 17. And then W is equal to negative 25, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two answers. Do you guys agree with me?
Yep.
And you guys all figured out, see how we did that, right? It
Yes.
totally made sense. All we were doing, as soon as we saw that they gave us square feet, and it was a rectangle, we thought, it's area. And we knew the formula for area, right? Area is length times width, as Domenica said. So it was so easy. So we just wrote the formula, and we just kept going down until suddenly we could complete the square, right? You had to get rid of those parentheses before you got it to in a place where you could actually complete the square, right? You had to multiply them out first, right? Now, well, we have two doggone answers. W is equal to 9 or W equals negative 25.
You just put or between and circle it.
Yeah, but let's think about it. This is now a real life example, right? Let's remember, it's saying what dimensions should the patio be?
It's not going to be negative dimensions.
What?
It can't be negative dimensions.
Why?
Because this can't exist in actuality.
It doesn't really make
Do you guys
any
agree with him?
sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
That's brilliant, Liam. That's totally brilliant, right? You can't have, this is a distance, right? From here to here is a distance. You can't have a negative distance. Like how do you get a negative, you can't have a negative distance, right? I mean, you can have a negative direction, right? You know, if this is 0, you can go positive or you can go negative, right? But you can't have a negative distance. There's just no way. Distance is like absolute value, in a way. You know what I'm saying? You can't have it. But since this is negative, you can't have it. Therefore, you get out your little green marker and you cross it out,
Oh.
right? That's not possible. So our answer is W is 9. So it says, what dimension should the patio be? Well, the width, here's my final answer. Width is equal to, the width is equal to 9 feet, right? And then the length is what?
25.
16 plus 9 is 25 feet. Isn't that cool? And I put it in a box, and we have our answer. Isn't that cool?
I like
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you the homework now. Is that enough of an example for you to try?
Wait, how did we get the 25 again?
Oh,
Oh, plus
it-
16.
Yeah, exactly. Because you just go back to that, right? So, all right, so I'm going to just hand these out, and you guys can get started. Some of you are going to finish before, then you'll have no math homework tonight, right? Which would be really cool.